Welcome to another episode of the BiGG Umbrella Podcast. That's big with two G's. I'm going to repeat that. That's big with two G's, the BiGG Umbrella Podcast. And I just want to welcome on Junior, man. What's going on, bro?
What up, man?
Thanks for having me. Hey, I appreciate you even coming on.
Yeah.
Because like we had to reschedule a few times. You a busy ass man. You got a lot of stuff going on.
It's a lot of things going on.
So even like to start off, you from San Diego?
Yeah, I'm from San Diego.
And what part of San Diego you grew up in?
Well, I was born in LA. I moved to San Diego till I was in first grade. Well, no, let's take that back. I was born in LA, grew up in San Diego all up until I was in first grade. And then my mother got her papers taken away. She's Mexican. Mm-hmm. So I moved down to TJ. Mm-hmm. And I actually grew up in TJ till I was a freshman.
Okay.
Once I was a freshman, I came back to the U.S. Didn't even speak English at that point.
Right.
You know, and ever since I've been over here. When I initially moved over here, I grew up in City Heights. You know, the first 2-3 years that I was over here in the U.S., I was in City Heights. You know, I made my rounds around the whole Southeast.
Right.
I was throwing parties and being a promoter. So where did I grow up? I actually grew up all over Southeast. Yeah. You know, I didn't stay boxed into just one of the sites. You know, I moved around the whole thing.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So to even start off going back, what was life like for you in TJ growing up in, let's even go wherever you want to start back. I don't know if you go back middle school, high school. Just what was that life for like?
It was definitely was a little bit different than over here. You know, it was definitely a culture shock once I moved over here because it's different. You know, ways of the cultures are different. You know, but definitely I dived in completely to the culture up here once I moved over here. You know, definitely.
He didn't complain once he came over here. So what, like high school over there compared, I mean, and then you came over here for.
So I was over there up until middle school.
Okay.
I came over here in high school.
Okay. So
I think I did like 6 months of middle school over here too. I went to Horseman over there in City Heights.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I went to Scripture High.
So then even growing up, starting growing over here doing like now you was in middle school, high school, what was that like for you out here?
I mean, it was like definitely different. I think like the first year I was one of those outcasts that was just, you know, hiding in the halls and stuff like that. And then I got into football. Once I got into the football team in high school, I definitely had that change that we all have, you know, like I started having all the friends, you know, I went to play varsity, I believe at the end of freshman year. And then I stayed in varsity up until the end, until I left football because I got all into the parties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. I mean, I enjoyed high school.
Yeah. And you said you played football. What position were you playing in football?
I was playing linebacker and fullback.
Oh, you was playing both ways?
Yeah, I was playing both ways.
And they had you already going had you playing varsity and you was a freshman.
Yeah, I was big.
So you was
I was big. I was big and I was definitely invested into the football thing all up until I, you know, 16, 17. Once I became a sophomore, junior, that I had that transition when I was like, oh, I gotta get some money.
Yeah.
You know. Now I look back and that's probably one of the only regrets I have. That's why I'm so big on my son playing football and following through. Because, you know, I went to a few football camps and stuff like that. I went out to Arizona. I went out to Fresno. And definitely if I would have stayed chasing the football, you know, dream, I probably could have done something.
Yeah.
You know, just because of the work ethic.
Yeah.
But, you know, never cry over spilled milk. You know, I was maybe it wasn't what it was written for me to do, you know?
Exactly.
But definitely, if you ask me if I have any regrets, maybe that's one of the regrets that I have in my life. Not, you know, not staying in that football thing. Obviously, I started throwing house parties, and that's eventually how I got into the club promotions and the radio and all the other stuff that I did. And that took me away from football. Like senior year, I didn't even play football anymore. But, you know, shit happens.
So what about the house parties drew you from achieving that because you were so invested in football to wanting to do that?
I started, you know, that age you start kind of like, I mean, it was always driven by the money. It wasn't so much the party or the drinking or, you know, everything that happens goes down to the parties. I definitely fell in love with throwing a party, standing at the front door and collecting the upper person to walk in, you know? So it was just staying after school to play football, and Friday night lights became like, nah, I'd rather go get some money, you know, and have some fun while I'm at it.
The money drove you.
Yeah, that's
basically.
Definitely.
So then, even then, you said you was in the party scene. That took you on to be then going to promoter. What was your first job even before?
Shit. My first job when I was 16 was McDonald's.
Okay.
Definitely. and I learned how to work at McDonald's. Definitely more work ethic comes from McDonald's. At some point I worked at Bonds. Then I went back to McDonald's and I was doing McDonald's during the day. And
they didn't let you down, huh?
Nah, and I was doing Walmart overnight.
Goddamn.
And then that was the last time I had a job. I think it was around 17, 18. The last time that I actually had a job and I collected a paycheck from somebody. After that, before I started doing the house parties, like, straight house parties.
Yeah.
And then eventually that kind of got me into an internet radio station at the time called Jelly Radio. And eventually got me into do some stuff at C90 and the promo team. I ended up doing 2 spring break as a promoter. My first experience as a promoter was actually being part of this thing that used to happen down in Mexico and Rosarito. Now it's the big Baja Beach Fest and stuff like that in Papas and Beer. But back then there was a company called Mexico Spring Break. So I actually worked with them. That was my start in the promotion stuff. And I was spending all spring break down there doing the parties and doing stuff like that, just passing out flyers and just living out there for the month and making sure that all the college kids that went out there were, I was kind of like a guide, one of the guides.
Yeah.
That was my first experience in the promotional world. Came back over here, kept doing, because that was like spring break thing, summer thing.
What, even before you keep on going, what was spring break like for you experiencing that out there in Mexico?
Shit.
What was spring break like in Mexico?
Wild. It was definitely fun. Now I think about it at my age, and I'm like, damn, like it could have gone left plenty of times. But it was fun. It was a cool experience. I'm pretty sure that all the kids that are going out there now are experiencing the same thing. I mean, just kind of think about it. You're fresh 18, 19 years old.
Definitely.
You're out there 30 days of the month.
Wow.
With everything paid for, meals, drinks. You have all access to the artists. All you can drink.
Yeah.
Can't nobody tell you shit. Because that's just how Mexico runs, and it was fun. It's definitely fun.
And then you kept on going up from, you did the spring break, you're like, okay, now I want to do something different.
Came back over here, kept doing the house parties. Eventually, like I said, I was working with the promotions in the radio stations.
Right.
At that point, the blogs were popping, the blog spots and stuff like that. So I got into the blog side and the beginning of the web marketing stuff of the radio stations. And eventually somebody hit me up that was promoting in downtown. It was like, hey, I have an artist coming into town. Can we get an interview in the radio for him? So I made that play. I don't even remember who the artist was.
Right.
That night I went out to the concert and I ended up connecting with the dude that actually was presenting the show. And it was a full circle moment. The dude that was throwing the show was the guy that actually was behind the spring break stuff in Mexico.
Oh, that's crazy.
I just didn't come into the company through him. I worked for somebody that worked for him.
Right.
And once I met him, like that same night, he offered me a job to start promoting in clubs in downtown. And the rest is history. Like,
damn, like you said, that came full circle.
I started with him and, I became the face of his company. They no longer really knew him or his company. They knew me as the promoter. 2-3 years later, we ended up splitting up. He ended up firing me because he didn't want to become my partner.
Right.
But that was the beginning of the promotions.
Right. So then with the promotions, what did that then lead to for you after the promotions?
Well, that was a long period of time. It's about 10 years that I was out there in downtown doing my thing. I definitely started as a paper pusher, passing out flyers, going to colleges, putting out posters, selling tickets and stuff like that.
And you was over there, you was out there during the late night type of stuff.
Yeah.
So during them, did you have any of them like risky moments out there? Because sometimes I don't even like being out.
Downtown?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Been
through it all.
See, so how you handle yourself in them situations to then come to this?
Come to this, like move over to the...
Yeah, like now obviously you was younger and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How did you get past them situations to not have to now that you're successful?
Well, I think that I believe that there's a plan and there's a higher
being,
blanket or higher being, whatever you believe, that already kind of has it written what it's gonna be, and whenever it's your time is your time, and when it's not, it's not. And I look back at a lot of situations that happened being out there from the party scene days, like even through downtown, like you name it, the big brawls that have happened in concerts and stuff like that we all know about in San Diego. Like I was probably part or in the middle of it, presenting the show. And there's plenty of times that it could have gone left, and by the grace of God, it didn't. And it was nothing but lessons and eye openers to how quick shit can go wrong, and definitely has a major impact on how I move.
Yeah.
Ever since,
What instilled like the hustler mentality in you at such a young age?
I think that shit comes from my mom. It also comes from, once again, I think like the culture down in Mexico is a little bit different than over here. I don't have that of being entitled. And I think that's where it comes from. Like I just gotta keep moving, just gotta be doing something. That's I always been like that.
Yeah. So now your mom seeing you now, what she think about how you moving now?
I think my mom loves it. My mom actually works for me. She works for me. She's a big part of like my operation when it comes down to the restaurant, King's Group. She runs all my quality control, and she does all my purchasing and all my sourcing and all my inventories. And I think she loves it. Right.
So then you even just touched on a little bit, how did you start to get into the food game?
COVID.
So COVID hit, and then
so I was doing the nightlife shit for 10 years. It became monotonous. It was amazing. I'm thankful for it. Towards the last 3 years of this stretch, I was getting older. I already had 3 kids, and I was like, hey, this is dope. I'm killing it. I'm having a great run. You name it, I work with. You name it, I brought them into town. Nightclub that you can name, I work with them. I was, I wasn't really a promoter. I had an entertainment company that did everything from putting the show together to bringing the artists to taking a percentage of the night. I wasn't getting paid a ticket rip. I wasn't doing any of those promoter deals. Like, I was in a partnership with the venue.
Right.
So, but at the same time, it's a young man's sport, unless you figure out how to make it something different than that. And I was just conscious that it wasn't going to last forever. I didn't see myself doing it when I was 40.
Right.
Like some people that are still out there, So definitely the last 3 years of that, I started getting more into the marketing side of it. Kind of opened my eyes to like, hey, if I can sell tickets to events weekly, I can start selling other products. And it was like the beginning of the social media marketing era. So once I kind of like realized that I was running campaigns, marketing campaigns on social media and stuff like that, and selling tickets, I was like, hey, I can sell anything. So I talked to my partner at the time, and I said like, hey, let's keep this in autopilot and kind of like focus on what we're doing. And let me go over here and start looking for ways to start a marketing digital agency under the same company. And, reached out to a few restaurants, reached out to a few bars, and started getting some clients, and we started running their promotions. And that opened up the door to end up partnering it up with a restaurant at an ownership level that didn't work out at the end of the road. But it was a great experience. And that was my first, actually dive into restaurants. It started as a partnership where we were running the marketing and bringing the people into the restaurant. Once we had a great feedback on that, bringing the people in,
right,
I kind of had to step into the operations of it to be able to maximize what was coming in. We had a great 1.5 run, or 1 year and 3 months run. COVID came, kind of fucked up that partnership. When you go from not making it and almost losing the business and offering up half of the business, and then it becomes a reality, and you actually have to grab half of the profits and hand them over to somebody else, it becomes like uncomfortable, especially when something like COVID happens and the money stops. And it's more like, hey, we got to start investing so we don't lose our assets, so if we lose the business. We didn't see eye to eye. That shit ended up being an agreement to walk separate ways, during COVID. Left it in the hands of the lawyers and moved on from there. Then COVID came. Obviously, entertainment was done. Everything was, at a standstill. And my plan, once the plans of reopening started coming around, was to relaunch the marketing agency side of things. And I started putting together campaigns to get clients, restaurant clients, to start advertising them and get them going on the whole pickup and delivery system. And one of those late nights that I was working on those campaigns to relaunch the business, I was like, hey, dude, it just clicked in my head, late night in my office at home. we had nothing but time at that point. We were at home 24 hours a day on lockdown.
With the COVID.
And I was just like, dude, like, why don't you just do your own shit? Why don't you just jump into your own shit? Like, you already landed a partnership in the business. You already stepped into operations. You already know how to run the business. And you know how to bring the customer, which is like the biggest key to anything.
Right.
I don't care how good your food is. I don't care how good your menu is. I don't care how pretty your location looks. If you don't know how to get that customer to walk across the door, you don't have nothing.
Right.
So when I was sitting there, I was like, yo, fuck this. I'm not going to depend on other businesses to cut me checks anymore. I've been doing that shit for too long. And that's kind of why I started the marketing agency in the first place, because the nightlife was not at a standstill because we were killing it, but I just didn't see anything higher than where we were at. Make sense?
Right. It's like
I saw like a ceiling.
I have to get out of this to
and
get
eventually I was like, yo, I'm gonna get too old for this. Make sense? So I was like, what's next? I got 3 kids. So I was like, what's next? What's gonna keep paying me? What business can I build that is actually gonna be something tangible that I build that can keep paying me?
Right.
Even long after I exit the business or exit the building. And yeah, like you said, even after I pass away, right? And I think that the whole first experience of partnering up with the restaurant opened up my eyes to a business model that I could build that can live on long after I remove myself from it, if I create a system good enough for it to keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you said, run on autopilot.
Exactly.
For you, back when you were even in the promoter days, what were some of the, I wouldn't even say biggest artists, like what was some of the coolest artists you felt that you had experience with?
I just did an interview a couple of days ago and they asked me the same question. I was never on that fan mode, but definitely just the full circle moments were the dope ones. What do I mean to that? I mean, we just asked me about my first jobs and stuff like that, right? I remember grabbing the 15 or the 7 bus, city bus,
right,
on University of Home Boulevard, right?
Yeah,
down to Walmart, listening to the Walkman, the Sony Walkman,
yeah.
Listening to Rick Ross or Jeezy or DJ Khaled and listening to that kind of music, and I always tell my son, because I like to talk a lot to my son about stuff like that. Like, man, like having that experience of being in the city bus, closing your eyes and listening to Ross and portraying yourself in a nice car and owning your own business or being at that level, right? To eventually 10 years later, actually having Rick Ross next to you, doing a show for you and having a personal relationship with them and their management. Right. Those were my favorite moments. Yeah. When it's like 10 years ago, I was listening to Yeezy and I was listening to his CD and now I have him next to me. Right. We do business together. Exactly. That's the part of the game that I really enjoy.
Right. That's the fan part. That's the part that I really God, I'm enjoy. Next to whoever. It's like the fact that I'm able to
it was more than fanning about it. It was like, yo, that's crazy how when you put your mind to something, you can really accomplish it. Right.
Exactly. What is the fatherhood been like for you? Comparing when you first had your child to your last child now.
I think that it's a beautiful process that puts a fire in you. I would not be where I'm at if it wasn't because I had kids. And all the friends that I have or the people that work for me, I always say it to them. It's like, hey, bro, wait till you have a kid. Right. You're a different type of individual once you have a kid. Once you're responsible for more than just you. Exactly. Yeah.
So then going from that, is that what inspired, like, okay, I know for your son, we were talking about earlier, you wanted to get the barbershop for your son so he could, and anybody else who's obviously within your family going to do that. That was the barbershop. Was the food for your kids?
The food was definitely the first. Well, the core idea of doing it was building something that I can pass on. The club shit, I wasn't going to be able to pass it on to nobody. It's not my building. Exactly. So once I said, like, yo, this is a business that I can build. This is a system that I can build. This is a company that I can build, that I can pass it on eventually to one of them and they can run it, And definitely when I named the businesses, because originally at the beginning it was one business. The idea was to open the hibachi truck. There was no idea of opening anything else.
And what made you choose hibachi?
I was fresh coming out of the lawsuit with that partnership that went wrong. I was going up to LA to buy PPP to sell it. And there was 2 or 3 hibachi brands up there that were trucks that I was like, yo, this is crazy. We don't have it in San Diego. And they were cracking. Like cracking.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, I got to take this to San Diego. And once it became, when I saw it, I was like, yo, I got to take this to San Diego. But it wasn't like, I got to do it now. It was just like an idea when I had it.
Yeah.
But when I started putting the marketing campaigns together to get back in business, and I was like, yo, I got to do a food truck, or I got to do something. It wasn't a food truck. I just got to do something with food. Then I was like, yo, dude, I got to do the truck. I got to do the hibachi truck. And then the people around me were like, no, that's crazy. Like, 'cause if you look at the menu with the hibachi truck, like you're talking about the cheapest plate is $30.
It's almost spending some money.
And you tell anybody in San Diego prior to now, like back in those days, like, hey, I'm going to sell some hibachi grill off a food truck and I'm going to charge $30 to $60 per plate in the middle of a pandemic.
Right. They're like,
they looked at me like, I was
get the hell out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I was like, yo, it has to be this. And at that point, you know, I had a partner and he was like, no, you're crazy. We got to do something more affordable. We got to do something that is more at the reach of everybody else. And I was like, nah, bro, like this is the hype. Like we know the business of being a hype and creating a demand based on hype. It's a lot easier than creating a demand based on something that there's a lot of options to get it, right? And it's gonna work. We'll be the first ones to do it in San Diego. So they listened to my crazy ass and we did it. And one of the second or third motivation behind it was I didn't want to do a taco truck. I didn't want to do anything like that because I didn't want to feel like that move was out of spite to the situation that we had just left.
Right.
That the restaurant that we partnered up that went south was a Mexican restaurant. Yeah. The Soul Tacos. So I felt like if I opened a lunch truck that was selling tacos or anything like that, it was gonna feel like people might confuse my move like it was done out of spite. Right. Instead of doing it because I wanted to do something new. Yeah. And it was also a personal challenge. You know, if I can sell tickets, I can sell food. If I can sell food, I can sell any kind of food. If I can be successful at all the other businesses that I'm before, then I can be successful in this one, even if it's in the middle of a pandemic and it's super priced, super high up. You know? Yeah.
So then what you're saying, like how you didn't want people to think that you're making this move or you're doing Mexican food, then how did you get to the birria?
That was when we decided to open the first truck. We obviously reached out to a lot of properties to get a lease to be able to open up the location. Right. When we landed the first one, we jumped on it and we announced grand opening and we were open 2 weeks later. After the second week that we were open with the first location, another property reached out to us that was less than a mile away from the original location where we had the first truck. And they were like, yo, you can open up a business here. And it was such a great location that I didn't want to pass on it. Right. But I was always also conscious that, you know, I didn't want to compete with myself and put something less than a mile away, the same brand. And I also didn't want to pass on the opportunity. And I couldn't move the first truck over because we had just signed a lease and committed to be where we were at. So that's where in the conversation it came up, let's do something else. And that's where the idea to do the birria Kings brand came from. You know, because we had the location. It's a great location right off the freeway. And at that point, we were already 2-3 weeks into the Hibachi Kings project being open. And the hype, the lines, the selling out every night had already happened. So to me, it was like, now this won't be looked at as out of spite. Because for one, it's just like birria is not like a whole street taco concept like the other concept that we walked away from. And at that point it was already proven, like, you know, like everybody was talking about Hibachi Kings at that point already. We were on the third week of being open, and to me it was like, all right, cool, if I announce the next one, it won't be looked at it's out of spite because of the other one,
because you already doing this.
I already did the other one. You know, if it would have been at the same time, I would have been kind of afraid of it. But it was already like the shit was already proven. You know, the point was already made.
Definitely. Like you said, like, you already had a stamp for what you've been doing. It's like, now I want to branch off, do something else. So then even with you having so many businesses, what's it like for you being, you know, Mexican and being in business? Are you looked at any different when you doing business with people? Or do you feel any different when you step in these rooms? Do you feel like you got to put up a front or talk different or anything like that?
Look, I don't subscribe to that shit.
Subscribe to and what shit?
I'll be completely blunt about it. Like, I don't subscribe to looking at it like that. It does happen. And I've been facing it like my whole life. And I noticed it, not facing it. I noticed it my whole life. We go back to the promotion game, right? It was real difficult for me to navigate and get to the point that I got in the promotion business, because definitely I was representing hip hop, right? So a lot of those venues frown upon those artists, all up until they're like the hottest shit, right? And, you know, I created relationships and I had the access to those artists because I started working with them from the go. You know, you talk about Future, you talk about Rick Ross, you talk about Meek Mill, you talk about Wale. I started fucking with them and I was like, yo, this is the next one up, since they were like in the mixtape game.
Right.
So when I would come to those venues that are super corporate and they're super, you know, upscale, they were like, yo, we're not bringing that shit here. And I was like, yo, yeah, you have to. It's what makes sense. This is what the crowd wants. This is what the client wants. And, you know, most of the time they will come around and be like, let's get that guy. I was like, yo, I told you 6 months ago. Right. And eventually that turned into like, if I said it, that it was going to make sense, they would just take the leap of faith and do it. But at the beginning, there was a lot of like pushback. They were like pushback on it, you know? So there I will see it a lot. And obviously coming up, you know, I dropped out of high school. I didn't finish high school. So coming up, my business skills, my communication skills, the way that I conduct myself wasn't the best. You know, it's a little bit more street. So definitely I will come into those meetings. I will come into those rooms to do business. And I was a little frowned upon, but it's never like slow me down or made me create this animosity. It was like, oh, if anything, it just puts a little extra chip in my back to, you know, prove them wrong. Yeah. And end up running laps around them.
There you go. Yeah. And like, I mean, I see you got the prolific. It's like, it's a marathon.
Oh, that's my boy.
Yeah. So you about to keep it going.
We actually had a personal relationship. And that's one of the artists that I was there from the go. And we were boys from the go. And his last show before he passed was here in San Diego. It was my show and he was with me 2 nights before he passed. Damn. There's footage on my Instagram of, you know, him leaving the venue, us leaving the venue, walking out. You know, we're having a conversation in the back of his Maybach. And he tells me like, dog, I really appreciate you. We've been here from the go. His brother Adam was right next to us. J-Rock too. What's up, J-Rock? And, you know, Nip told me that night, I was like, hey, bro, your chain's on the way. You've been there from day one. And, you know, that's one of the artists that I had to fight with every single venue in downtown to get him in there. And I did shows with Nip from when it was 2 rooms and $1,000 to get him out here till we were busting down $50,000 checks to do shows and the biggest stages. And yeah, I totally wave that flag. That's my people. And, you know, I really move inspired by the way my brother used to live. Definitely.
And even be able to call someone your brother and like have that type of experience and relationship with them, that's big alone. And yeah, that's kind of what you've been speaking on.
That whole campus, we've been solid for a long time. The whole camp.
So what's been some of the hardest aspects of business to navigate in?
Just the independent grind is hard, but it's beautiful. I wouldn't, if you told me to do it over, you'd do it different. Hell no. I love it. More than anything is just the amount of hours that go into not only executing and making it happen, but also figuring out how to. Right. That's probably the hardest part. I work 20 hours a day. I've been doing that for over 12, 15 years. And I still do it to this day.
So with you always working 20 hours a day, I'm sure you come across a lot of mental stress and health and shit like that. Who is there or what do you do to counter that mental health and mental stress that you got to go through?
I think
because you're carrying a big bag, you got to take care of your whole family and everything like that. So.
I walked away from my parents' protection when I was real young. And I think experiencing that made me real, like, mentally strong. And I don't want to say emotionless, but kind of like have full control over my emotions. Yeah. So I really don't crack under pressure or stress. I have this profile in me where I tell people all the time that are around me and the people that I work with, and I try to kind of like inspire them to understand that the way I look things, and I tell them all the time, like, I'm at my most comfortable moment when I'm under fire. When shit is going good, when shit is under control, when shit is normal, I'm a little uncomfortable. I love to be with my back against the wall and with a million things going wrong. I don't know if it comes from my upbringing. I don't know if it comes from that chip on my shoulder of like going hard. I don't know where it comes from, but definitely when I'm under stress is when I'm the most comfortable.
Damn. So what even, you said at a young age, you like left your parents' care. What would even make you have to do that at such a young age? Or how old were you?
I love my parents. My parents and my sisters now work for me and work with me, and we have a great relationship. But at that point, you know, like they grew up in Mexico, and the Mexican culture has a lot of like a short sight mentality, and I definitely wanted more, right? And I didn't want more in an entitled way. I wanted more, and I was willing to work for it,
right?
And I feel that them, out of fear and wanting to protect me, they were like, no, you can't have a job. You can't do this. You can't do that. And I was going to high school and I saw my homies like, you know, with the Jordans and this and that. And all I wanted was to just go to work at Bonds or something to be able to afford the Jordans.
Get a check.
And it wasn't like that. You'll buy me this shit. It was more like, I'll work for it and I'll buy it myself because you got to take care of the family, you know? And, you know, me and my dad were crashing a lot. So eventually that age came where, you know, I hopped the fence and I never looked back until I was in a position where I can come back and kind of like pull him with me and take him where I wanted to take him. Make sense?
Yeah.
And instead of having to subscribe to the way that they wanted to do things.
So when you left and you didn't look back, how long? So were you even in any communication? They had no idea.
We were just having a conversation with my mom about 2 weeks ago with my director stuff, the people that work with me hand to hand and run the company with me, and she brought it up how I walked that way, and I didn't talk to her for 8 years.
8 years.
I completely went like I wouldn't talk to my parents at all. I wouldn't talk to my sisters. I wouldn't talk to nobody. Like I was really out here alone, and I think it's like a self-defense mechanism that kicked in where I wanted to focus on the goal of getting ahead and getting to a better position. And I wanted to ignore all the feelings aspect of them, you know, that stuff. And you know, that's what created that drive in me. You know, I kind of put myself in a position where I was just like, go, 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 go.
So I know that like with you having that mentality, you kind of put all the emotions to the side and everything. Now, with you having to give those emotions to your family, I don't know if you have a significant other or whatever, but you know, you got your kids and stuff. How do you now transfer that, you being emotionless, to now giving so much love?
Well, it's a personal healing process. I think that by the time that I got with my significant other, the mother of my kids, we've been together for some time now. I was already in that healing process. I was already experiencing success to a certain type of level, where I was already not mad at the situation that went down with my parents. I was not mad at the world. I wasn't with that, you know, sometimes like you were mentioning when people like don't look at you a certain way or you feel like you got a chip on the shoulder, you're mad at the world. I wasn't there anymore. I had already succeeded in a couple of things that I wanted to do, and I was on my way to get wherever I'm at now, which I got a long way to go, to where I already knew how to kind of turn it down. And like my vulnerable side was home. You know, like that relationship when I had the kids on the way, like they never really had to deal with that because I know how to turn it down. It's more like on the business side and on the protecting the family and protecting the business side where I know how to go down to that mode.
So like you said, you were kind of already healing. What was it kind of taking for you to heal? Because that's like you said, that's a big thing to do and to be alone. What was it taking for you to heal?
I have always, and I gotta thank my parents for this, but my upbringing and the way that they raised me, kind of like, even though there was a moment where I like walked away, I never went really down the wrong path, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was never on that dumb shit that a lot of people get stuck on. Oh, because of this, fuck that, I'm gonna be like this.
Yeah.
To me, it was like a challenge to end eventually, I didn't know what I was gonna do, but eventually show everyone in the world that I was gonna be, that something positive was gonna come out of it. that I was gonna turn into something positive. I wasn't gonna, end up losing or being down and out. So that's where that comes from. So the healing, the process of that healing, if I can put it into words, will be that I started working towards a goal instead of being like, yo, my parents didn't want to let me do this and let me do that. Now I'm mad at them at the world. It's like, yo, let me just go down my process and get to where I want to get to and turn around and be like, yo, this is the way. Let's go.
Like you
come
said,
back.
You're going to come back when you got them to
and
pull
even though anybody's mentality will be like, nah, that's my parents. They should do that for me. To me, it was like, nah, fuck that. I'm the one that's going to take that on. I like to reference movies, podcasts, books, and stuff like that. If you look back at the Godfather movies, right? At some point, the son takes over the family business, right? And when the son takes over the family business, like he is the Don, even if the dad is alive. Like he takes on the weight of the family on his back, and that's kind of what my mentality once I was out in the world on my own. It was like, yo, I'm the one that's gonna take it there. Then I'm gonna come around and fix the family, and take them with me. So that was my healing process, getting to those markers that I set for myself, and eventually come full circle and bring everybody with me and fix the situation. I wish I could wait for them to fix it.
I wish I could do that goddamn Godfather voice. I really wish I could do that shit. If I could do it, I would have did that shit right when you start talking about the Godfather. Yeah. But it seemed like success kind of is a therapy for you in a way. Definitely. So with that being a therapy, what do you do if you're going to experience failure within your business?
Oh, there's nothing more motivating than failure.
Okay.
I tell people all the time. I don't know why people are so afraid of taking L's. And I don't know why people are so afraid of talking about them. I love talking about it. I say it all the fucking time. I lose more than I win. That shit is the best feeling in the world. I enjoy losing more than I enjoy winning, because the get back is fucking amazing. It's a high that you can't, like, I never experienced something like that. When you lose and you lose and you lose and eventually you get it right, there's nothing that feels better than that. Winning the first time doesn't feel as good as winning after you fucking lost and lost and lost and lost.
That's for real.
I love that shit.
So then, even though now even talking about more wins, how'd you come into business with Cutthroat?
Well, Cutthroat, shout out to Jesse, my partner. Shit, Jesse was building his brand kind of like at the same time that I was building my food stuff. Definitely. And I always saw him from a distance, and I respected what he was doing. And from the first time that I saw the brand, I was like, yo, that shit is dope. Like, he's branding a brand, not a barbershop. Right. And I told him from the go, I was like, yo, bro, like a lot of people are too cool to show love and shit like that. I'm not that guy. Right. Like, I'm the type of guy that gives you your props, and I'll rep your shit like it's mine from the go, and I have no fear of anybody thinking that you're being a group, you're this and that. Fuck that. I respect hustle. I respect when shit is done right. I always want to be that person that I don't have around me. Right. I like to do that. Yeah. And I always had a relationship with Jesse since I met him, where I saw what he was doing. I was like, yo, dog. And, the background too. Like, his first shop was in City Heights. Most of the guys that work for him in City Heights are guys that grew up with me or underneath me. Right. And the whole party scene, promotion, stuff like that. So I always been well aware of what he was doing. I was like, yo, like, I like the movement. I like the movement. And I told him from the go, I think it was like the second or third conversation we had in person. It's like, hey, dog, whenever you need a partner, whenever you need some kind of support, whenever you have anything, let me know, dog. I want it. Right. Right. And, that time came last year, late October. He reached out to me like, yo, there's an opportunity to open up a shop together. I jumped on it right away. 4 days later, we were getting the keys to this place. 4 days. And shit, it's been a good ride. It's been a dope ride. He has 5 barbershops now. I'm trying to convince him to go nationwide together. Yeah. But that's the plan eventually. And I love the brand. Like, I fuck heavy with what he has built. And I'm looking forward to really be an asset to his path. Yeah. To his success. Definitely. I'm rooting for him for sure.
And what's this experience been like having a barber shop here? Like, how's it been how long have you been open here?
We took the keys November 1st, and I think we opened mid-December.
And what's it been like having to keep barbers in here?
It's been cool. I mean, I'm
familiar with a couple barbers.
Yeah, we haven't experienced. I mean, I heard all the stories. Obviously, I gone through a lot of barbers. Yeah. Personally, And, you know, I have barbers that are friends, and I heard the stories and I hear everything. But so far, I mean, Jesse's amazing at the way that he handles his business, and he's amazing as a person. Like, I gotta give him props because I don't conduct myself like he does. Like, I got huge admiration at the way that he listens to people and the way that he has communication with people. I'm more of that guy that is on the go, and to an extent, at some point, I come across as an asshole just because I'm so like into what I'm doing that I really come off sometimes like I ain't got time for that.
Right.
Even though I don't mean it like that. And Jesse is that guy that will stop and have a coffee with you. He's the guy that will stop and have a conversation on how your day went. You know, so I feel that him being like that makes it so much easier for this to run smooth, because I definitely have friends that own other barbershops. I've gone through other barbershops in my process of getting my hair cut. Right. And I gone through a lot of personal barbers that cut me up. So I heard all the stories, and we haven't experienced it here. It's chilling. Like, people come in here, they do their job, they go, and I think they're all happy. I think they also like the system that we're running here, because obviously with my background and what I'm doing outside of here, I'm starting to implement a lot of that here. What do I mean? I'm marketing the business like if it was a restaurant. Yeah. Or like if it was a ticket that I'm selling. So not only are they coming in here, paying their booth and just waiting for people to come or their clients, right? Like, I'm actually advertising the business and running a marketing campaign to make sure that 100, 300, 400 people walk through that door, regardless of who the barbers are in here. Right. Because I'm building a brand for the location. Exactly. And I think that the barbers that we have here now have noticed it. The last 2-3 months, been picking up. And they're telling me on the group chat that we have going on, like, yo, the shop is getting busier and busier, and people are coming, and they're coming because of the marketing campaign. You know, and definitely is another, check on the whole concept of like, hey, what I originally got me started on everything is like, if you can create a customer on demand, you can do anything.
So with you already have started now these few businesses. Do you still plan on having more? Like, what do you plan on still doing after this?
The plan right now is I'm kind of like the last year and a half, few legal battles, but more than anything, I took a step back from those L's that come across. I started those lessons. I started growing fast in the food side of things. I went from 1 truck to 2 brands, then to 3 brands, 4 trucks, 2 storefronts, and a catering business in a matter of 6 months. Damn. That's how fast it was. And obviously, out of those 4 trucks, 2 closed down because the concept was great. The idea was great, but the location wasn't so great, right? So after experiencing wins and losses, after a year, I was like, all right, cool. I know what I'm doing. I know what I want to do. So I took a step back, had a little bit of turmoil internally in the business. Shit happens when the business gets big. And I said, like, yo, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to get everything to where it needs to be as far as like the system, the manuals, getting the business to be ready to grow exponentially, not just grow into another location. My outlook on the business, or my plan with the business now, is to turn into a franchise. So I have 3 different brands, which is the taco shop, which is El Toro Street Tacos and Beer, Birria Kings, and then Hibachi Kings. So those are 3 different brands that I've been working the last 2 years on. I'm turning them into a franchisable concept. And then from there, it just like the barbershop, open nationwide. Those are the plans right now. I don't want to grow anymore into let me open another location. Now I want to get to the point that I can say, all right, cool, fund and open 10, 20 at the same time. That's my plan right now.
So even for some of those who are looking for business to get big, like you just touched on, like when business get big, there's things you got to watch out on. What are some of those things you got to watch out for when business gets big for you?
A lot of people get into business because they don't want to work. They have this idea that owning a business means you pay somebody to do the work and you just collect and get to chill. That's the most wrong thing ever. When you become a business owner, you're actually paying to work, and you're gonna work more than you ever worked in your life. Right. Like, I stand by that. So that is a reality check that a lot of people should know about. You know, when you go into business, it's not that you're going to get to chill and get to collect. You're going to work more than if you were just an employee. And you're going to deal with more headaches, and you're going to be responsible for a lot more than just coming into your place of work, doing your job, and walking away and getting paid. Just being able to collect a paycheck from your business sometimes becomes impossible.
Right.
Because of the cost of paying for everything. You know, so that's one thing. The other thing is being careful on starting business with people that are not ready to start business with you. Your mentality, your mental strength, your experience has to be there to be able to make the difficult decisions that come with running a business. And then other things is just not being entitled, not being a fucking hater, and being willing to work and learn and stay up days in a row, and being prepared to take on a responsibility that never ends. It never ends. Day and night, at any time my phone is going. I can make plans. I can plan vacations. I can plan birthday parties. And in a second, they can get canceled because the business is first until the business is set and it runs on its own. And it takes about 10 to 15 years for a business to run on its own.
Damn. And with that, like you said, the business takes kind of priority of everything. How do you manage that with your family life?
You got to have a good support system. Your household definitely has to be invested into wanting the same thing as you. And I can't stress that enough. I said that to every one of my business partners. I said that to a lot of my employees, a lot of my managers. Like, when you take a commitment like this, your significant other, your kids, your household has to be invested into what you're doing. Because if not, it's not going to work out. I've been on vacation, arriving on vacation to celebrate my daughter's birthday, and we got to go back to San Diego. Shit is going left, and I got to be there by the morning. And they're like, fuck it, let's go.
At some, that's got to be crazy. Like, then the relationship you've even been established with your lady, for her to be able to take on that, because I know a lot of people would not be cool with that.
We go back to the subject of accountability. See, I met her, even though I had experienced some kind of success already. I was early on the game. So she's been there with me from the go, right? And a lot of what you can expect from them comes from what you prove them, right?
Right.
So you create that culture at home and that support system when you come through. So if they're going to make all those sacrifices with you, you got to make sure that you pay them back. Not because you have to, just so they can see why they make those sacrifices.
Exactly.
Right? So we go back, talk about me and my significant other. Like, we've been together from the point that neither one of us had a car. Right?
Right. So you starting from ground zero.
Yeah. So just to move out of the place. See, at the point that I got with her, I was living in my boss's office. I didn't even have a place.
Okay. So like you saying,
because I was so
really
locked in. I was so locked in that I was living in the office straight up. And when I got with her, I moved into her mom's house. Within 6 months, we moved out of there. She was already pregnant and we already had a car.
Yeah.
So it's always been that show and proof, like, hey, I'm going to be gone and I'm going to be getting this money, but it's for a reason.
Right.
Boom, here's an apartment. We have a car now.
Right.
You know, and through life, even though there's ups and downs, you always make your situation and their life better. And that's how they stay all in for whatever you're invested in.
Definitely.
Because they know that the sacrifice comes because we're heading somewhere.
Right.
You know?
Because if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Exactly.
For sure.
You have to come through.
Yeah.
You definitely have to come through.
Well, that's good that you've been able to establish that with you and your family and everything else in your business. With that even being said, I just want you to let people know how they can reach you on your social medias, anything else you got going new, just let them know.
Reach me right now. I'm going back to kind of like highlight the personal brand. At the beginning of the restaurants and stuff, I kind of like turned off my social media because I was super known because of the nightlife stuff.
Right.
It got to the point that I even shut down my Instagram and I let the brands be like the face of everything.
Right.
Now I have gone back. My Instagram is back up. It's FreshJR without a E, FRSHJR. You can catch me there. You can catch everything about the business at kingsgroupsd.com. And you'll see all the links for all the locations and all the brands there. we have Instagrams and pages for every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Cutthroat, Cutthroat brand, Cutthroat Ulti Ranch. Those are the handles for the Cutthroat barbershop side of it. And, shout out to my mobile detail business too, ATR Detail. Carlos doing his thing. That's another one of the guys that work with me and takes care of like my mobile detail.
Right. So with that being said, it's been another episode of the BiGG Umbrella Podcast, and it's a wrap. Here we go, brother.
It goes by fast.
Hello.
That's crazy.
And I ain't want to hold you up all night.
That shit goes crazy.
Well, let's get some tacos, nigga. Can we really get some tacos? You trying to get some tacos? Let's get some tacos, nigga.